Good morning, I'm Taylor Wilson, and today is Monday, September 22nd, 2025. This is USA Today's The Excerpt. Today, how Charlie Kirk was remembered at a service in Arizona. Plus, states prepare for the future amid FEMA uncertainty, and how much does the American dream really cost? Tens of thousands of mourners honored the life of prominent conservative activist Charlie Kirk at a memorial service in Arizona yesterday. Elected officials, faith leaders, Kirk's colleagues, and his loved ones addressed the crowd at State Farm Stadium. Speakers emphasized Kirk's religious faith and his contributions to the Make America Great Again movement as a leading voice for young conservative activists. Kirk's widow, Erica Kirk, delivered an emotional eulogy for her slain husband and received a standing ovation when she said she forgave Kirk's killer.
That young man, I forgive him.
As for President Donald Trump, he eulogized Kirk and celebrated his political achievements and said Kirk asked the people who disagreed with him to come forward and instead of silencing them, handed them a microphone and let them speak. Trump, though, also took shots at rivals, including former President Joe Biden. While discussing a ceremony to award Kirk the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor, Trump touted his own recent efforts to combat crime in the nation's capital. And like other speakers yesterday, Trump condemned those who cheered Kirk's killing, including a late-night TV host who Trump said implied that Kirk deserved what happened to him. Trump did not identify the hosts, but his comments came days after ABC suspended Jimmy Kimmel over the comedian's comments about Kirk. Trump at one point lashed out at the radical left, and he said that the killing was an attack on the country as a whole.
Charlie's murder was not just an attack on one man or one movement. It was an attack on our entire nation. That was a horrible attack on the United States of America. It was an assault on our most sacred liberties and God-given rights. The gun was pointed at him, but the bullet was aimed at all of us.
And he called for Kirk's accused assassin to be put to death. Other speakers included Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who said Kirk was engaged in a spiritual war, and Secretary of State Marco Rubio remembered him for his uncanny wisdom. Vice President J.D. Vance heralded Kirk as a martyr for the Christian faith. You can read more on usatoday.com. The two top Democratic leaders in Congress are demanding a meeting with President Donald Trump after the Senate struck down a short-term funding bill to avert a government shutdown. In a letter to Trump over the weekend, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries wrote that they are ready to work toward a bipartisan spending agreement that improves the lives of American families and addresses the Republican healthcare crisis. Democrats have been urging Republicans to reverse recent Medicaid funding cuts that were enacted as part of Trump's major tax and spending law and extend Affordable Care Act subsidies. They've refused to strike a funding deal unless those issues are addressed. Trump told reporters he'd meet with the Democrats, but said he doubted it would make a difference. The House narrowly passed a funding bill largely on party lines on Friday, but senators voted against the bill that same day. Meanwhile, lawmakers are in recess this week, and funding expires at midnight on September 30th. As the Trump administration considers closing FEMA, states are preparing for what disaster responses might look like in the future. I spoke with USA Today's senior national political correspondent, Sarah D. Wire, to learn more. Sarah, always a pleasure. Thanks for hopping on.
Thanks for having me.
So what have we heard really from President Donald Trump and his administration about plans to dismantle FEMA and pass its responsibilities on to the states and local governments?
So when he came into office, it was on a platform of getting rid of FEMA and handing this responsibility to the states. He's created a task force to examine what changes to make. We've seen the agency start to kind of pull back their responsibilities and what they're doing. But as recently as June, he was saying that he wanted to completely dismantle FEMA after hurricane season. And then there was the flooding in Texas on July 4th. We saw kind of tweaks in the language a little bit where they weren't no longer talking about dismantling it, but reforming it. There's a lot of uncertainty about whether it's going to be dismantled or reformed and what that's actually going to look like.
Well, how is this conversation landing at the local or state level? What did you hear in reporting this piece?
A lot of states and counties and cities are, pretty freaked out. Most of them are saying that they don't have the infrastructure to take on this responsibility. And unlike the federal government, they don't have billions of dollars in their budgets to play with. Most states have to balance their budget every single year. And they're not sure where this money would come from, but also where the people to do the work would come from.
What role could Congress play, Sarah, when it comes to orienting the future of FEMA?
So Congress is considering some legislation that was brought by the chairman of the committee that would have to pass it, which is always a sign that it's going to get some serious consideration. And it would make some pretty big reforms to FEMA, but it would not dismantle it. And it wouldn't hand off all responsibility to the states and just give them money. It's a lot of the reforms that states have been asking for and that Congress has considered in the past.
The FEMA Review Council, as you write in this piece, is examining the future of the agency. I guess just what can we expect from that review, Sarah, and this broader conversation moving forward? What's next?
So that committee is going to make a series of recommendations. It's currently scheduled to come up in mid-November, and we'll see if they keep that deadline. That's always true in government. But we can imagine that the administration is going to go forward with a lot of those recommendations. All those recommendations still need to be approved by Congress, though. And if Congress is considering their own bill, they might not be as interested in hearing those recommendations.
All right, folks can find more in Sarah's full piece with a link in today's show notes. Sarah D. Wire is a national political correspondent with USA Today. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
The United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia yesterday formally recognized a Palestinian state. The British announcement was expected after Prime Minister Keir Starmer said over the summer that the country would vote in favor of recognition at the annual meeting of the United Nations General Assembly in New York, which begins today, unless Israel agreed to a ceasefire with Hamas in Gaza. That has not happened. The move is aimed at pressuring Israel into changing its Gaza policy, while Israel says the recognition rewards terror. Hamas welcomed the move, but said it must be accompanied by practical measures to end the war in Gaza and prevent Israel from annexing the West Bank. Stateside President Trump opposes recognizing a Palestinian state, and while on vacation in Britain last month, Vice President J.D. Vance said he didn't know what it would really mean to recognize a Palestinian state, given, as he put it, the lack of a functional government there. Palestinian statehood is recognized by 147 of the UN's 193 member states. Successive American administrations have taken the view that any formal recognition of a Palestinian state should come only through direct negotiation between the relevant parties, Israelis and Palestinians. It now costs $5 million over a lifetime to fund 8 key components of the American dream, according to a new analysis from Investopedia. I spoke with USA Today personal finance reporter Daniel Devise for a closer look. Daniel, thank you for joining me.
Happy to be here.
Well, Daniel, of course, the American dream means different things to different people. Let's start with that. In a survey, this site asked more than 1,200 adults to identify goals they associate with the American dream, and most said they shared 8 aspirations for achieving the dream. What were they?
They asked a bunch of people, what do you identify with attaining the American dream? And a majority of people said these 8 things go along with that dream. Retiring comfortably. So not just retiring, everybody's going to retire. Affording quality health care, not just health care, but good health care. Owning a home. That's a classic American dream thing. Raising a family. Owning a new car, not just a car, a new car. Going on vacation every year. Seems like a modest goal. Caring for pets. And having a wedding. Those are the 8 things.
All right, let's run through a few of these, starting with retirement. I mean, how much should folks be putting away amid this new, inflated landscape?
Well, one of the reasons I like this approach is the folks at Investopedia make you look at the costs of each of these things, and retirement is the biggest cost. And I think that's part of a kind of an emerging understanding out there that retirement is a very expensive thing. People are living longer, right? It costs more to be retired. You might have a retirement that goes 30 or 40 years. So according to Investopedia, retirement costs $1.6 million. That would be a combination of maybe Social Security money, but also money you have saved and spend over the course of your retirement. That's just one. That's the biggest thing on the list.
All right. Well, what about home ownership and car ownership? I'll toss these two together.
Yeah, those are second and third, and they're very similar costs. Owning a home comes in at $957,000. That assumes about half of that is the house, which might be, $500,000, $400,000. All the rest of it is just paying interest on the mortgage, paying for insurance, all that escrow stuff, caring for the home over, they're assuming a course of 30 years, which is, that's the typical length of a mortgage. And then a new car, not just one new car, but they're assuming you buy a new car, I think once a decade, something like that, which again seems modest enough. A family of maybe 4 people buying a car every 10 years, that's probably about what we've probably done. And it comes out to $900,000. That one's gone up since the last time they did this analysis because car prices have gone up.
All right. Well, when it comes to raising a family, Daniel, this of course looks different for everyone, but what does the data tell us here?
Another huge expense, nearly another $900,000, 876,000, and that's the cost of raising two children to age 18 and then paying for both of them to go to college for 4 years in state. So that's less than people will pay if they send their kid to grad school or send them to private universities.
How do these numbers, Daniel, compare with how much the average American makes over a career? I mean, are these attainable goals?
Well, so one adult American with a bachelor's degree right now could expect to earn about $2.8 million across an entire career. So the difference between 2.8 million and 5 million is a pretty big spread. So to attain the dream, quote unquote, you partner up with somebody, have a partner, a husband, wife, whatever, and both of you work, or you invest, save money. Somebody with a regular income can save maybe $1 million if they really work at it over the course of their life. So there's different ways to get to 5 million, but admittedly, it would be hard for a family with one wage earner to get to that much money over the course of, and then you start to decide, well, what are you going to get rid of here? What are you not going to own? What are you not going to do?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Daniel, what did you hear in speaking with experts about how they parse this data?
Well, I interviewed a person at the Libertarian American Enterprise Institute, Michael Strain, who's written a book on the American dream, so he's uniquely qualified. He said that maybe the bar is set a bit too high in this report. He pointed out that it might only be the top 10 or 20% of income earners who really achieve all of those things, including owning a home, owning a bunch of new cars, a fully funded retirement, all that stuff. He said that to him, the American dream is more about an upward trajectory. So are you getting ahead? Are you making progress? Are you doing better each year than the last? And I like that idea. So if you're kind of making progress toward your goals every year, if you're doing better each year than the last, then maybe you have achieved a sort of American dream.
Great. I like that idea as well. Daniel Devisay covers personal finance for USA Today. Thanks as always, Daniel.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for listening to The Excerpt. You can get the podcast wherever you get your audio. And as always, you can email us at podcasts@usatoday.com. I'm Taylor Wilson. I'll be back tomorrow with more of The Excerpt from USA Today.